meeting major league players today, there's usually fall into two buckets. I mean, there's the guys that have a ton of gratitude for what they're getting to do, and there's the guys that think they're God's gift to baseball, who think they're the gift to baseball. And I just feel like the other guys are a lot happier.
Put that coffee down.
Creators are leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Well, hello there, friends. Welcome back to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartman, and on this show, we bring you ideas and insights from leaders across the construction industry and beyond every single week to help you lead more effectively. Today's episode is brought to you by the Simple Sales Pipeline. It is the fastest way to organize and value any sales rep or business development manager's book of business into the future in under 30 minutes. That's right. You don't need to fly blind into an uncertain future, questioning if your revenues and profits are going to go down. You can simply log in to the Simple Sales Pipeline and solve this problem in under 30 minutes. Visit thesimplesalespipeline.com. Now, I couldn't be more excited to bring to you today my conversation with Mr. Ben Jenkins of Warstic. Ben Jenkins grew up in the Dallas area, was an exceptional baseball player, playing at the University of Oklahoma before transferring to Mississippi State University, which is one of the best programs in the country. He was good enough to be drafted and played minor league baseball in the Philadelphia Phillies organization for a couple seasons before exiting, becoming a graphic designer, moving to Chicago and studying at the Art Institute of Chicago. And then he ran his own freelance graphic design business for about a decade. Looking for a creative outlet that would combine his design expertise and his passion for sports, he launches Warstic, W-A-R-S-T-I-C, in 2010, grows it until 6 years later in 2016, he gets a funding investment from two unique and interesting individuals in and of themselves, Mr. Ian Kinsler and Jack White. Now, baseball fans may recognize the name Ian Kinsler. He was a second baseman. He played for multiple teams over a 14-year career. He's a four-time All-Star, two-time Gold Glove winner, and one World Series champion with the Boston Red Sox in 2018. Ian Kinsler is a proud member of the Texas Rangers Hall of Fame. Now, Jack White, on the other hand, is a rock star. To be more specific, he's a singer, he's a songwriter, he's a musician, he's a producer. His album I bought, I think in 2005, 2006, called Get Behind Me, Satan, is one of the most underrated albums of all time, I believe. So he's on the White Stripes. He was in a couple other bands, currently part of the Raconteurs and the Dead Weather. Also a baseball aficionado and a pretty good baseball and softball player himself. They joined in to help really grow Warstic. And over the last 6 or 7 years, they have really blown up. And this brand, Warstic, came on my radar for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's got a really unique and iconic feel, and the messaging that comes out really resonated with me as a sports fan and also a father of a very passionate young 11-year-old baseball player. And the messaging in there on gratitude and focusing on the warrior, not the weapon, and the mindset that we all carry in baseball and other sports is really, really powerful. And I've been a fan of the brand. They have an incredible headquarters that's in downtown Dallas in the Deep Ellum neighborhood. And I connected with Ben. He invited us down there and we recorded this interview that really, I think you are going to get a lot of. We talk about management. We talk about leadership. We talk about creativity and innovation. We talk about controlling what you can control and your emotions. We cover a lot of territory in this episode. I had a blast and was really appreciative to get the opportunity to speak to Ben. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Mr. Ben Jenkins of Warstic. As always, thank you for listening. Mr. Ben Jenkins, welcome to the show.
Thanks. thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us. This is kind of a dream. I've shopped in this location multiple times, and to be here with you is pretty awesome. But so I'm going to jump in, and I want to ask you about when you talk about the art of brand manufacturing and creating brands that resonate deeply. And I'll give you a little bit of background. There's not many brands that I've encountered as an adult where I can say, I remember where I was when I heard of that brand. Yours is one. There's a friend of mine. His name's Rich. He works in PR with the Texas Rangers. And I remember I was at Grapevine Fieldhouse.
I know that guy.
Before a baseball or a basketball game. And he came in wearing the shirt. And I said, I'm like, Warstic. What's that? I've never seen it before. And he's like, there's this guy, he played Major League Baseball, started this bat brand, but it's all about, it's the weapon, not the warrior. And I'm like, design guy, weapon, not the warrior. So I'm like, they're selling bats, but it's not about the bats. He's like, yes. So immediately I jumped on my phone, started researching it there. That was the initial hook. And I guess the question for you is, how did that come about? Because there's an obvious risk in that, like Nike is, wear these shoes, you'll be like the pro. You're saying it's not about that at all. Tell me a little bit how that came about and how that kind of influences your design.
I think part of it is just when I started conjuring this brand, there wasn't much pressure to succeed because I already had a job. Kinda. I mean, kinda. What? Not kinda. I had an agency, right? So that was fine. So the reason for me doing this was to have fun, which is ironic because it's been very hard. So there wasn't much pressure to do any. I really was taking the mindset that I wanted to make some art, which I really didn't feel like I was doing with my clients because there's only so far I could go with things when it's, client artist relationship. Like I was just kind of missing the art. So the whole intention with this brand was to really let it fly. You know what I mean? Yeah. That meant if there's no pressure to fail, it's kind of like be emotional with it, be sincere with it. Don't be afraid to say what I want it to be, all these things. So it was just pretty authentic in terms of like all that because I really didn't expect to sell a single bat. I was just having fun. Yeah. So I think I knew that it wasn't going to work by being like everybody else. And my industry was when I looked at the landscape of our industry, it was you could almost take the names of the brands and interchange them with other brands, which is a big opportunity because it meant they weren't really stating anything specific about what they were about. So I knew enough going into it that I wanted to have a perspective and for it to know what it was about, which, is a good thing. It informs everything that we do. It takes a minute to really figure out what you're about because the initial seed ideas about Warstic weren't as developed as they were, when I got really serious about it. And then we sat down and kind of figured that out, but it helps,
Can you walk me through that arc? Because around 99, 2000, you start One Fast Buffalo, your design agency. You go for about a decade before you start Warstic. And then it sounds like, based on, correct me, I know the internet is never wrong, another 5 or 6 years before you get kind of more funding from Kinsler and Jack White. Can you tell me about that space between getting the funding and my guess is blowing it up to some degree, but also saying we're doing Warstic. It's this new thing. It can fail. There's no pressure, but obviously there was enough there to keep you going for multiple years.
I mean, the agency was going really good. I just was feeling a little personal burnout in terms of my creative output, and I just needed that outlet. So at first it was really just about having an outlet where no one, I don't mean this in a bad way, but when you're a designer or a marketing consultant or whatever it may be, and you have a client relationship, that relationship dictates that you get feedback on your ideas. I didn't want any feedback. I just wanted to create some stuff, put it out there, see if people will buy it. Really simple, really pure. I just needed to do that. So for, let's say, really 4 to 5 years, that was happening. But I had this mindset where it wasn't my real job. My real job was doing my client work. It took me a long time to get to the point where I was like, it's okay not to do client work. If this is actually really could be a good brand and you put full time into it. It just took me a long time to give myself permission to do that for some reason. In hindsight, I wish I would have figured that out faster. Yeah. I'd be further along now, but it did. So finally, 5 years into it, I said, okay, I think I could commit to doing this much more and doing client work a lot less. And that's when I got the investment. Okay. The thing is, I raised about $1 million, nothing major, but definitely enough to really step back and go, okay, let's treat this as if it's new and go and try to do it right. I didn't have a business plan. I just had two guys that really saw the base work of what we were doing and really felt the energy of it and believed in it and believed in me and said, here you go. Here's a shot at doing it. It took me and others really 2 to 3 years to really figure out, push all the right buttons, push all the wrong buttons to start to figure out, the arbitrage of what really started to track and work and like how we do things, So most investors wouldn't do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Jack, especially being an artist, he sees it from that side of things. He's just all in about what are we making that's super cool here, and we kind of figure out the business as we go. So luckily for me, that was a really good investor because that's where I was,
Giving you that runway.
Yeah. So that first 2 to 3 years was very hard. I mean, it was really grinding on, and you feel the pressure, not because they're putting it on me, but like, I want to do them right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so once we did figure it out and it really started to track and go like this, it's much more fun.
Yeah.
And it's good to be on the other side of that for sure. So then it becomes what's next, kind of thing.
There are two things specifically that for someone, so we work with construction folks and a lot of construction, hopefully not in the grandest sense, but in the smallest day-to-day sense of how hard is it? There's blueprints. You studied some architecture. There's blueprints. You got people who are doing the work. They're experts in it. Why can't you just roll up the prints and get stuff done? Construction, hopefully not to a major degree, is a game of failure. We work with sales professionals. That's a huge mind game. When I came and interacted initially with Warstic, two things jumped out at me. One was the battle. Johnny Battle, I'd like to get your thoughts on that a little bit. And I'll just tee these up. You can take them anywhere you want. We often talk about everybody's fighting their own battles, right? Everyone's dealing with their own shit. The other one was this attitude of gratitude, which I'm constantly preaching to my two sons in sports. So I come involved in this brand. I'm like, it's cool. It looks sharp and I'm wearing it. And now I'm preaching a message. So tell me maybe a bit about those in either order, the gratitude and battle and where those came from.
I mean, for my One Fast Buffalo branding world, those are just brand words.
Yeah.
Messaging is your brand comes in all kinds of forms of messages. The smaller, the better, the bits and pieces that people pick up on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're all informed by really me, playing baseball all my life up to through college and into, pro ball and stuff like that. And, it's just really simple for me is almost entirely Warstic's built on all the things that I was bad at in baseball.
Okay.
The reasons I failed, which were, other than playing hard, I played really hard. Like, I think that the base meaning of the brand, just being out there and fighting as hard as you can, I was actually really good at that. What I was not good at was probably gratitude. I didn't have a lot of gratitude. I just thought I was a really good athlete. Yeah. Didn't think I wasn't particularly good at training and learning. I would say I was okay at training. I wasn't great at understanding the concept that like you could learn to be better. I just thought, oh, this is my God-given talent. This is how good I am. So therefore, when I failed, I was really bad because I just saw it as I suck. Right. So versus my kids have had the benefit of growing up because I enforced it, like a growth mindset of like, hey, you got some God-given talent, but you can actually work on these things and improve. And it's a constant process, things I just didn't understand when I was a kid, that really caused me to hit a wall in baseball at a certain point. So Warstic comes from real experience of failure for me and wanting to take that and flip it and help kids not go through that. Yeah. Not that I'm trying to get them to be Major League Baseball players. I want them to be more interesting than that. Not that that's not cool, but it's just, the odds of it are really bad. So it's like, how can you enjoy the journey of baseball and learn from it and grow as a human, and stuff like that. So gratitude is a huge one. Like meeting Major League players today, there's usually fall into two buckets. I mean, there's the guys that have a ton of gratitude for what they're getting to do. And there's the guys that think they're God's gift to baseball, who think they're the gift to baseball. And I just feel like the other guys are a lot happier as humans. You know what I mean? So it's a big thing with us. The battle thing came from, you'll see this at any little league game you go to or any high school game. If a guy goes, 3-2 count and fouls off a bunch of pitches, third-base coach pretty much on cue goes, battle kid, way to battle kid. Like
That's it.
It's just an acknowledgement of an attitude towards not giving up. Really simple. I mean, it's a simple term, but it's turned into a very human term that people have to struggle with in all facets of life on a daily basis, and a lot of not fun things. I mean, like we get a lot of, hey, we need 25 battle shirts. Like, oh, that's a strange request. Why? Oh, because mom's sick. She's got cancer and we want to support her. Yep. And then we'll get a picture of the whole family, and sometimes these turns out really happy and sometimes they don't. So it's just a really human term, time to hunt. So it's just, as branding people, it's understanding the mentality of the brand and what that is, and then coming up with simple ways to distribute, to people like yourselves. Like, what does this brand mean besides Warstic? Because Warstic could mean, you got to control the meaning of your own brand, but you have to understand and know what you want it to be first. I'm always surprised how many brands don't even know what they are or who they are. You know what I mean? It's just like any person. I mean, it's like you're a lot happier in life when you figure out what you care about, what you're about, things like that. A brand's kind of similar in that. The more it understands what it is, the better. Yeah. Because otherwise, how are you going to communicate that to other people? And why it matters is like, well, I like this brand because of these things versus this brand. I'm not really about that. We want to be told what we should care about. And then it's up to you to decide. But like, we're pretty good about like, this is what we care about. If you don't, totally cool, man. Go down the street and there's other brands, that's fine. Yeah.
I want to read something here from the One Fast Buffalo site. And I think for a lot of our audience members who are listening, let me read this first. Say, there are more emerging brands than any time in history. The products that break through this landscape do not do so by accident. They told a better story. They didn't talk with their customers. They connected with them. They gave their customers a reason to become fanatical. This is defined at the onset of a brand with a detailed plan of attack. Totally agree. And we just went through a rebranding exercise in the past 12 months. Still digesting that. Still, any of these questions are extremely relevant to us. There's a lot of folks that are listening in the construction community who will say, we've been in business for 100 years. What Ben's talking about? We ain't doing that. Is there any advice you might have for brands that are not at the beginning? I can see from your response, who aren't at the beginning that might be able to pivot or change.
I think you have to understand when you read that we're probably more we made a conscious decision about halfway through One Fast Buffalo's history to stop working with service businesses because it's extremely hard to brand.
Yeah.
And it's extremely hard to be different, right? Like it just is.
Yeah.
I mean, an attorney, an accountant, anything that's really a service-oriented business, even a branding business in of itself. On the product side, much easier because you actually can get into the product. And if you can make the product different, then it's truly different than the rest. So I made a conscious decision to stop. It's hard. Like branding service businesses is extremely tough because you simply have a harder time making them actually different. The way it applies is there's no reason not to have conscious thought towards trying to do things differently and be differently and make that tangible to your customer. That's harder to do when it's a service and not a tangible item.
Yeah.
It just is tough. So, and I remember people struggling with that clients of ours early on and us struggling with trying to help them, honestly, with like, you can't be different if you're not different. We can paint it different. We can do this, we can do that. But like, it just gets into the way that you operate your business and the way that you treat people and all that kind of stuff, man. But it's just at the end of the day, hard to change what you actually do, know? Sorry, guys.
So I want to ask you kind of on that thread, just about kind of innovation and how you think of that from leading a company. I have an Ohtani rant that oftentimes we'll bring in I see the world through kind of a sporting lens, and we'll bring that to business. And my rant on Ohtani that we don't have to go into, but it'd be interesting to get your thought, is that when we see something that's like a black swan, it's never been around before. If I would describe Ohtani 10 years ago, people would say it's impossible, right? Then this thing shows up. Yes, he got the MVP last year. Then this year, he, hits 35 dingers. He gets 15 wins. He just does things nobody thought possible, and he gets 2 votes for MVP. And it's like, well, now that he's here, we're kind of explaining away. So how do you think about innovation, and how do you think about, hey, we always have to do something different? And I know you guys were, you got your pommel precision knob that from a very general scope, I understand what's going on there, but you've got a patent on that. You're trying to find ways. Is there a sustainable way internally at Warstic that you can lead where we're always innovating in a larger group of people beyond folks like you and Christine who are at the top of the organization?
I mean, it's interesting you bring that up because I don't see us as very innovative. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like I'm pretty good at taking a boring industry that's existed for a long, long, long time and making the products more interesting.
Okay.
Through design, through personality, but like the Bone Saber knob is actual innovation that I kind of did on accident. Other than, just thinking through, I mean, for me, innovation are just ideas. How can we make this better?
Yeah.
So as we've progressed and we have realized that like we can make things look pretty all day and look cool all day, but we're in an industry that's based on performance. So although the looks cool and sounds cool might get us people in the door a little bit more quickly, the better the things worked, the longer they stay. So I started getting a taste for, hey, we've already got this part down. We can make stuff look cool. The only thing we can do to improve is actually improve the performance of the products, So the Bone Saber knob came through a process of starting to appreciate and have gratitude for that, hey, that's something, I'm not an inventor type person. Like I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. This is just an improving of a product that hasn't changed in like 40 something years. Metal bats came out in like the mid 70s or something. Okay. And really like the knob hasn't changed in 40 years. Yeah. And I'm sitting there looking at some of the wood bats that we do with our pros, where we do lots of innovation on the knob shape and it's all about comfort and how it rests on your hands. And I'm like, why couldn't we do something more elegant in a metal bat? And I think the important thing is it's that why not? Why couldn't we do this? And so I went to, into our kind of supply chain and I said, why could we do this? And they said, yeah, it'd be tremendously expensive to do it. I was like, but can it be done?
Is that because of the molds? Why is it?
Yeah, it's a mold. Okay. The mold and the tooling and all that kind of stuff. So like it'd have to have its own tooling as opposed to the common stock knob. Yep. And it was kind of this conversation like you wouldn't want to pay for it. And I said, well, how much is it? And they told me and I was like, well, yeah, but if that worked, we'd cover that in a couple months if the bat was selling and if it was true innovation. And I know that it would feel better on people's hands. So we jumped into it not knowing if it would work, which is kind of what you have to do. And it worked. And then finding out I could patent it was actually another surprise later that I didn't think I could. Because on a wood bat, it's been done 1 million times.
That's fascinating.
But no one had ever thought to patent it. So I tried and I got it. Yeah. So
there's
good.
There's a lot of little lessons in there, but I want to ask you about, as we're talking about innovation, maybe it's not going to work. Maybe the mold's really expensive and you're like, didn't work. And that was an expensive failure. Obviously, baseball is a game of failure. And that's why I think so many lessons in baseball and me coaching little kids through that and seeing a lot of just what we talked about, right? Mindset, growth mindset, positivity, one step at a time, deep breath sort of stuff. Failure is part of baseball. And sometimes I feel like there's almost there's a fetish in business around talking about your failures and let's fail fast. And I was like, hey, I understand that's part of it. And if you're going to push the envelope, sooner or later you're going to fail. If being a designer, you're going to do some things that don't resonate. That being said, we shouldn't be okay with failure. And if you fail enough in business, capitalism works and you're out the door. So how do you kind of balance those two with, I'm going to try some stuff, it's not going to work, but we're going to try some things. And on balance, the precision knobs, the wins are going to be larger than the losses. How do you think about that? And how do you instill that in your companies?
Well, I've only succeeded with one company and the other 6 that I tried failed. So let's start there.
Is that a joke?
There's a 6 snowboard company that no one's ever heard of because it didn't work.
Well, I see you on Instagram on a Warstic snowboard.
Well, yeah, some of those ideas then became and reemerged back into Warstic.
Okay, all right, got it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But I started a snowboard company actually the same day I started Warstic with kind of the same, a similar formula.
Okay.
And nobody cared. Got it. And I think what you have to be able to do as an entrepreneur is, I do believe in kind of the ready, fire, aim concept for sure. Because most people, almost any business idea that you have, majority of people will probably tell you, that's stupid, don't do it, you're going to waste your time. You shouldn't listen to that. If you believe it can work, you should try it. But you almost should do it in a way that's just doing enough to prove if it's got some, I call it like juice, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you can tell pretty quick when people give a crap about what you're doing or not. Like really.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't take that personally. I just feel like if I have the energy to try it and I'm into it, then do it. But like, there's a measured risk that I'm willing to take just to prove. And I've done that here at Warstic, for instance, with like, you know, most people think of us as, I wouldn't say of a baseball brand. They think of us as a baseball bat brand, even though we make products, I mean, from head to toe. You know, over the last 3 years, I've produced Warstic fly fishing rods, skateboards, surfboards, snowboards, lacrosse sticks, hockey sticks, pickleball paddles.
Pickleball. My dad was commenting on the pickleball paddle. Don't get him started.
Blah, blah, blah. And it was all this kind of thing towards, I'm not marketing any of them. Like purposely didn't market any of those. I just want to get it to the point where it exists so people can go, hey, look at that and see if it has this natural juice to it. Okay. So like we've kind of done that and proven like, hey, these can work, but we're going to have to do the hard work of marketing, which I hate. I hate marketing. Can I cuss on this show?
Yes.
I fucking hate marketing.
What?
But I didn't know. But like I really, really hate marketing because it is the grind of any business. Eventually the work of business usually becomes marketing. And for me, I like to make the stuff. You know what I mean? Like I like the pure, like have an idea, design something, work with the engineers and the manufacturers to produce it. And then I'm like, sick. I can't wait to show this to my audience. That for me is what the whole process, I can do that all day.
Yeah.
Having to do marketing all the time and create awareness in these spaces that don't exist for us yet is going to be the hard work. So it's like, well, I proved that people like them who found them. Like I'm really confident about that.
Yeah.
Do I want to go raise the money and really do the hard work to market it? It's taken a while to say yes, but yes, you know what I mean?
And how do you feel about
I can't remember
sales?
the original question.
Neither do I. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
What, how do you feel about if you hate marketing, which surprises me, but that makes sense when you say
people always
you
say
love
that
the
they love our
design.
marketing. And I think it always surprises me. I think they like the brand.
Yes.
And the brand comes through in the marketing and the messaging. And
I think that's why I was surprised initially.
Christine, who does the marketing for the most part, doesn't hate it as much as I do, although she loves branding just as much. It's just that I think our brand knows so much about what it's about that when we do like a launch spot video for the new Bone Saber or something like that, that personality comes through.
Yeah.
So they see it as cool, but that's different than how effective are the marketing tactics that you're doing. Right. That's tough, and finding out marketing, the constant grind of figuring out what marketing tactics and strategies work is really hard, and how technology plays into that and all these kind of things. Like I couldn't do this business without her and the team of people that spend their time marketing the stuff that I design. I mean, I'm pretty lucky in that regard. And it'd do okay, I think, but it wouldn't be growing at the rate it's doing,
I think that's the fun and the joy and the pain in the ass and everything that goes with building a strong team, which is I need somebody else to offset. Find someone who loves doing this, who's great at it, who can offset that. But let me ask you, because I do think there's brand, there's marketing in this space. You've got some manufacturing, which is gorgeous. You got windows up, so you can kind of bring that in. You got a retail space. Go around the corner. We have another kind of retail space with coffee, but a different kind of space. I'll classify it as generally as education, but use the tools right in Battle Hall. Yeah. And then probably fairly unique, not really relevant to a lot of our folks listening. Downstairs, you got essentially a concert hall. Right?
I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing downstairs.
And then there's nothing downstairs.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
So walk me through how you kind of brought and you have office space, right? We have folks working here. I just think there's a real opportunity where people who are passionate about this, they walk in. Eric, by the way, is going to come back down here and spend like $5,000. Just gets people excited to learn about the craft and everything and the brand, and this is marketing. Can you tell me a little about how this space got developed and what you chose to include and what to exclude?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually Mr. Virtual Guy. Like I live in a van in a trailer, and like I don't need an office, and I work in a hurricane on a beach and all that kind of stuff. So this was all Jack White, our business partner, who's kind of the opposite in terms of like he really loves tangible things you can touch and feel and be in and be immersive in. So this was really part of the dream of Warstic for him personally. Was I would love Warstic to be a place not just a thing
Yeah.
that you experience online and products that you purchase. And so it was good for me because it pushed me. Like, this is probably the most grueling but fun creative project that I've ever done, was just finding the building, with him and saying, hey, what could this be? And then dreaming that up with him, and then going through the years of figuring that out and getting, and dealing with the construction process. I mean, it was tough because he and I have such a high bar for not having it look and feel like anything our competitors could or would want to have.
Yeah.
Well, that means custom pretty much everything. So like, just the cabinets alone, and the
Cabinets are gorgeous. Yeah.
like the stain, I think Ralph's here, but like finding someone to do that gradated stain style isn't something you just look up on the internet and go, like, no one even knew what we were talking about. So I had to find someone who was willing to even try it out and test it out and then perfect it. And trust me, there's a lot of testing that went on before we actually got in. We only get one shot at the real cabinets, you know what I mean? But just that's a good example of like the gradients on the cabinets, which have meaning to us. They're kind of my personal style, but they're also like a nod to Jack's guitar, kind of, tobacco stained guitars and sunburst guitars and stuff like that. But they kind of look like our bats and stuff like that. I mean, I'd never want to do it again, but it was a fun year of doing it. And actually wanted, like, for me, usually as a creative person, like most things I finish, I'm not super satisfied with. That's just normal in a way. Like this, I actually finished, and my wife actually made, it's right here. It's actually pretty cool. This actually helped me a lot. She like took the photographs of the building and like put them in this book and gave it to me.
That's awesome.
And I actually got to look through it, and I was like, you know what? This is freaking badass. And it's actually one of maybe the first thing in my life creative that I'm like, this turned out better than I actually imagined, And it was just, I mean, when you're designing with Jack, I mean, that's probably why, because that any idea that's lame is like just going to get thrown out,
right?
So there, but I think it was just thinking about the place isn't, the concept of the place was, it's not really for us. I mean, we get like an office in the back and it's just a cool studio.
Yeah.
But the place is for the fans, right? So if you're in town and you're a Warstic fan, you got to come see this. So from the time you walk, the place kind of, in my mind, wasn't that hard to figure out the different pieces because we know the customer so well. Yeah. It's like, we know why they're coming in. We know what they're interested in. So it's, we want to show them the product right when they walk in. So, cause they just feel like, dude, look at all this Warstic product. But then it's like, where you're sitting is like the bat fitting area, helping them figure out which bat's for them and helping them design what it looks like. It's important. Jack was very adamant about seeing that process happen. So like, this isn't our big factory, but like, this is a cool one. Like we make a lot of the cool stuff here, but for people who haven't seen a bat get made, it's cool for them to do it. And it's no different than kind of being in a restaurant where you kind of can see into the kitchen and see that made. And then the coffee shop was an accident that came out of, well, we've got a batting cage because people need to try the bats, but we want to train kids to hit here. Well, where does mom and dad sit for that hour and a half, 2 hours? Usually it ain't good. Like if you see most batting cages, it's like some plastic chair off in the corner in a bad, it's not good. So it was like, well, let's build this kind of loungy coffee. I love coffee shops. So that'd be a cool place to hang out. So you could have a drink or, whatever it may be, but be able to see them the whole time. So the way that the space is configured where you can sit up at the bar and you can see your kid here while you're watching a game or TV and having a coffee or whatever it may be. And then, it just kind of went on like that, and then, I think probably we were horrible to work with for the construction company because Jack and I don't really finish our ideas before you start construction. We finish them as you're doing it, which isn't the way to do it.
You can change order your way to profitability.
That was tough because like some things, that's more the the true creative process. You don't really see things develop what they could be until they kind of get to a certain point.
Right.
I'm okay with that. Jack's okay with that. Construction crew, not so much. They were like, why didn't you figure that shit out beforehand? I'm like, I didn't. What do you want me to do? I
got it now.
It just, so to their credit, we had a lot of people on the construction crews that kind of started to understand that. And then they got into the fun of, hey, I'm getting to build something here that no one's seen before. Yeah. These are cool things. And so if you have appreciation for that, then it's okay. If you don't, it's not a good fit, but
Well, the first time we came in here, my wife got annoyed after 3 or 4 minutes, and your employee working behind, I'm sure, was questioning what was happening. But as soon as I walked in, I'm like, we're in construction. I've never seen cabinets like this, and they go all the way down. And I'm like, look at my wife, I'm like, I gotta touch this stuff. I was opening and closing the drawers, and I think they're like, I don't know what your deal is, but I think immediately for people who know, like, this is different and it's cool.
But it's just about, I mean, everything's informed by something or inspired. Like, I went to some architecture school, and I used to love those file drawer cabinets with the big things. So it's kind of the look of that, but it's about displaying things and one thing at a time, but then having everything available in that size right at your fingertips kind of thing. So functionally, it's worked really well. You know, there's not much that I would change about this space. It's like the evil Darth Vader Apple store. I don't know what it is, but
let's talk about kind of collaboration. What have you learned to either reinforce what you already knew about strong collaborations and setting expectations, whether it's Jack White and Ian Kinsler, whether it's, I saw the stuff you're doing with Mossy Oak. There's always generally this path is well run, which is we get together, there's lots of excitement, and then you and I are communicating, and then we kind of go our separate way, and now we're down the path, and you and I are, what the hell are you talking about? This is not what we planned, and setting expectations. Again, what have you learned about creating and building on strong collaborations with other brands or other people? I'm
feeling pretty lucky that I've gotten through them, honestly, because I'm just bullheaded creative guy. Like, I'm pretty much into what I'm super selfish. I'm into what I'm doing. I do this because I want to design shit. I'm just being honest. Like, I have learned though that it's like, I have to tell myself every day that I can't do any of this stuff without other people. Right. And especially what I do have, and actually Jack taught me when the first day I met Jack, he said, I have a ton of respect for your brand and what you're doing, and I won't step on your toes. And I laughed because I was like, you're Jack White. You should step on my toes. It's totally fine. But like, he really meant it. Like, he has this great respect for other artists' work. And so when I'm doing a collaboration with, like, you know, Billy Reed or Mossy Oak or something, like, I do have a lot of respect for what they've built. I just have to keep that in mind. Yeah. Because during the process, there's going to be something I don't like, because that's what I do. You know what I mean? Like, I just look at things and I'm like, I like this, but this is what I don't like. I focus on what I don't like to make them better, you know? So that's I have to watch my tone when I do that. I try not to do that by email. It's better to do that on the phone where you're doing this and things like that. And, you know, and really, like, the toughest collaboration I ever did, and we knew it going in, was me and Jack designing this place together. Okay. I mean, you're talking about his creative level of genius, my kind of like insane love for this brand and what it is and what it's not, and those things kind of clashing, because I had the job of making sure that this didn't go too far off in a different direction and be like not Warstic. So that's tough. Like, and we had, you know, like, out of 118 ideas, you know, there were 2 or 3 that we clashed about that were tough conversations, because those ideas become personal to him, to me. So I just feel lucky that people will work with me in the first place, and, you know, and I've gotten through it, but I'm sure I've rubbed people wrong in the other. I'm probably not the best person to collaborate. I shouldn't give collaboration advice. Let's just put it that way.
There's a phrase that I think about.
But you shouldn't do any collaboration with something you don't respect. And then if you can just live in that you kind of mindset, you probably be okay. Yeah. You know?
There's this phrase I think of often, which is strong views loosely held. And I think there's a whole bunch of people who are really talented or otherwise who have really strong views, and they will hold on to them like grim death, regardless of what new information comes to light or what other people say. Yeah. And I think the hard part there is the strong views, easy. Loosely held, that I'm willing to abandon this if there's a better idea. Well, that's something.
Yeah, I would say what I am good at, and this comes from my background and working with Christine at One Fest Buffalo, is like that we were good at, and are still good at branding, because we take a strategic approach to it. Like, we create the brands based on the information that we gain. It's not just coming from us. And if you can do that, then it kind of tells you what it should be. It's not just my personal opinion. It's more, and my dad's an attorney, so I learned to argue pretty well. But like, this information tells me that XYZ, and therefore XYZ dictates that we should do something like this. So you're building, you know, reason for it. Yeah. You know, which is strange that I operate, but I really believe in that. You know, I like, even when I'm doing creative projects, like it's all coming from the information and the research that Christine finds. Yeah. It's based on that stuff. It's not just personal taste. Now this brand, a little bit more my personal taste. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at this point, the brand's so beyond me that strategy plays all the time. Like I can't just walk in there with those guys and say, hey, I want to do this. They're like, that didn't fit who we are and what we're doing at all. Like I can't even outdo that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that strategy works. So I would say strategy is just a good, safe place for everybody. It doesn't get so personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, get all the things on the table. Let's get all the good, the bad, and ugly out on the table and see what it tells us and be honest about what you're seeing, you know, then you'd be pretty safe.
Well, ultimately, if there's no process to support that, that's at a certain scale, if this is just some bespoke one-off thing, then all right, it's going to be whatever it is and we can take our time. But if it's at scale, there needs to be a system, there needs a process. Otherwise, it's just disaster. I want to talk about time management and specifically tell me about, you mentioned it kind of earlier before, 1958 Airstream, you restored it. Tell me to what degree you are literally jumping in that thing and cruising. Because I saw you guys snowboarding. I see you fishing. Maybe those are close. How often are you on the road? And how do you kind of balance that time, obviously with your family? You got 3 boys. Walk me through how you think about that and how you execute that.
Man, that's going back a long way. Like 10, 12 years ago when my kids were younger, we were probably 4 to 5 months on the road out of a year with some really long stretches in there, you know, especially in summer because they were young enough that the truancy laws aren't that strict when they're younger. So I would just keep them out of school. Like if spring break was a week, I'd make it into 2, right?
Sure.
And the reality is their teachers actually were some of the most supportive of it because my kid, maybe my 6-year-old would come back with some incredible drawings of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And the teacher's like, wow, like teachers get that.
Yes.
Principal doesn't get it.
I was going to say administrators do not get that.
I don't know. Like my wife and I had a sense that it would be easier to force our kids to hang out with us when they're younger and do this.
I believe that's
and I needed to get out and do it because I just was like feeling like I needed to see more things, you know? And so, man, time management, I think it's just a matter of like, I believe in working really fast, not really long, like in not filling hours. Like it's not about filling hours. It's about understanding clearly what you're trying to work on and what your objectives are. You know, the one thing I'm a pretty obsessive writer only to myself. I write to myself. I talk to myself a lot. I'll send emails to myself and I'm clarifying what I'm working on and why to the point to where I'm clear about it. And then once I'm clear about it, I'm a list maker. I'm like, hey, this is how I do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. It's not cool and artsy, but it works. It's just lists. Like I live off of lists and I try to basically, you know, I've tried different things, but I basically try to work off one list. Like it's not a list this big. It's a pretty crazy, you know, thing.
I can imagine.
It keeps me like I need to convince myself that I care about what I'm working on and so that I don't work on things that waste my time and other people's time. So, yeah, I mean, like as far as mobility and stuff, like we got rid of our office at One Fast Buffalo in 2008 and 9. Got rid of it and went virtual back then, which is funny now because everybody thinks it's cool. And I was like, I've been telling people for a long time. So I get more work done this way. I see my family a lot more time this way. I spend more time with my kids this way. I don't waste time in meetings this way. I mean, all the things that have come out now, Christine and I have been doing for a good decade, you know, but like, and now my kids are, you know, I've got one in college. I've got one in very busy high school, or I've got one in 9th grade. Like their sports lives. I mean, they're busy. I can't be on the road as much anymore, only because I have the dad guilt. Not because I don't have the flexibility, it's the dad guilt. Like I got to be there, you know,
that's
kind
a
of
real
thing.
thing.
So it's more of that, but like we get out as often as we can, you know, and then it became not just about, it used to be traveling to see things, which was really good for me and my kids. Eventually that morphed into discovering surfing and like learning it together. And then like, I'm addicted to that.
Yeah. And
then fly fishing and learning that. Now it's basically, my trips are basically fishing or surfing. And it's like, there's a real love of that. Cause you know, there are things that you can get better at your whole life till you're old, and everything, you know, staying in shape even is about being able to walk in the river and not drown. And staying healthy so I can keep doing those things and things like that. So like, it's good to be old and know what you care about.
Yep.
I mean, there's things I just don't care to do. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Golf I'll tolerate sometimes, but I'm just not my thing. I'm like, okay, things like that. But, I don't have a problem with time management, but like, I work a lot, but I love what I do for the most part.
Yeah.
Almost the entirety of what I do. And the bigger we get, the more help I get, the more I get to design. I'm actually ironically getting to design more products the bigger we get, because I'm having great teams work on the non-fun stuff, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No,
they say I'm getting old, and at some point you lose that. So we'll see. I don't feel like that, but.
All right. I'm watching the time, and I appreciate you. I have a lot of gratitude for you making time for this. Two kind of wrap up questions here, a little bit different. One is, if you had a bumper sticker that you could give out to any parents who have kids, say playing baseball 12 or under, and say, just hypothetically, I'm sure you don't know any of these people, you've never heard of these people, but it's not the weapon, it's the warrior. They think, actually, that's false. My child's 11. He needs 13 different bats, and we continue to buy them, even though they're $300, $400, $500 a piece. What would be a message that you, in theory, could put on a bumper sticker for this class of human being?
The people that think it's the bat and not the warrior?
Baseball is a very serious thing. My child Shirley is going to go to Mississippi State and play for the Phillies. He is going to be amazing. And this is why we're making this huge investment, and it's lots of gear all the time. What advice might you have?
I would say the biggest thing that I see, and I've coached, I coached all three of my boys till they're about 12, 13. And then I let them kind of progress into more serious coaches and stuff like that. And then if I had one, play all the way through varsity high school. And then I've got a younger one that he wants to play college baseball, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've actually learned more from the middle one than anything, because at 10th grade, he decided he loved football so much, and that's what he wanted to spend his time getting better at, that he told me he needed to put baseball down. And a lot of people came to me like, man, are you okay with that? And I was like, I'm ecstatic about this, because, as a parent, it's all about, this is the hardest thing in baseball. Is it you that love baseball, or is it the kid? Because baseball is not a thing to push on if you don't love it. It is a very miserable thing to push on.
Yes.
Like it is, like you said, it is very, obviously it's a game of failure, but it is a skill. Like football, I'm like, this is great. Let's freaking go, man. Like I love football. I'm from Texas. I would love to keep playing football. Like it's just all like, you can try harder and do better.
Yeah.
In baseball, the harder you try, probably the worse you're going to do. Yeah. You can only train and learn, fail, learn from that, go. Like it's much tougher mentally and all these kind of things. So like I see a lot of people just base it on the physical nature of baseball, that, oh, well, you don't have to be the greatest athlete in the world to be in the major leagues. Okay, that's kind of true. I mean, it helps to be a great athlete, but the amount of training you have to put into it is insane.
Yeah.
And it progressively has to be more and more, and I train smart. But like, if your kid doesn't love that, please don't push them into that. Instead, help them find what it is that they love. So, I mean, I'm not encouraging people not to play baseball, but like if your kid loves to cross, and you can tell, like it's not hard to tell what your kid likes and doesn't. I'm sorry, it's just not. Yeah. And that's coming from a guy who has 3 kids who saw their, they know I played in college. They know I played pro ball, but they know I have a broader perspective on like, I'm like, I think it's cool that you learned to surf. It's helped you with as much as anything, So it's just, I wish I could help baseball parents be a little less crazy about knowing what the line is between, hey, like my oldest son, he played baseball all the way through high school, all district MVP, all this kind of stuff, got college offers, but turned them down and decided to go to college to become an industrial designer. And I'm thinking, well, his experience in life was actually seeing this.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is cool. I mean, he's like, baseball's cool, but I want to do this and I want to get to it. So like him to be mature enough to go, I'm going to set this down now and focus on what I know I love, I'm super proud about. Yeah. And I also know like the misery he's going to avoid that's coming, you know, in baseball. Baseball's a great teacher. And so that's really what parents really need to focus on, the fact that I love my kids doing something hard. Whether surfing is very hard to learn. If you've never surfed, and go try it, and it's not easy. So like, I'm only proud as a dad that I made them do things that are hard. And baseball's one of those things, you know. The little one, he's different. He's like, I love baseball. I want to see how far I can take this.
Yeah.
But he definitely understands the concept of like that. Then he's just getting a little better every day. And like, that's your job, not anybody else's, you know, that kind of thing. So,
okay. Last question. Going in the Wayback Machine. It's 1944. You are.
I'm not that old.
Either am I. You are Kennesaw Mountain Landis, the first commissioner, Major League Baseball. It's 1944. You're essentially on your deathbed. And they come and they say, Mr. Landis, you can make 2 rules that will never, ever be broken. One for Major League Baseball, we'll call it professional baseball, and one for amateur baseball. 2 rules, maybe they're the same. Maybe you're just going to do one. You can make any rule that can never be changed. What would they be?
The first one that came to my head was Kinsler, my business partner, Ian. Like, we hate that they take out the second baseman and slide rule.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I would not take that out.
That's interesting.
Because
surely Ian Kinsler got spiked.
Yeah, but he believes that it's part of the game.
Okay.
Not so much from a traditional standpoint, but when I was a kid, I played shortstop. So like we had to learn how to avoid that.
Yeah.
Like it was a really beautiful play. Like catching the ball from, say, your shortstop, catching the ball from the second baseman, jumping up in the air, getting your feet up high enough for that guy to go under you.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful play that doesn't exist in the game anymore. Yeah. No one ever really super got hurt so much with that one as they did with like collisions at catcher, which I can kind of more, I miss them, but I can kind of more understand that one.
Yeah.
But like those little things that they're taking out of the game decrease the beauty of the game. And if you do that too many times, the game becomes boring, which is pretty boring now. Those little things are a big deal once you take 6 of them out, you know? So that's the first one that came to my mind is like, you need to learn. It's not there's an extent to which, you know, you're going after the other player, but like, as long as it's in the parameters of good, hard baseball, do it. Okay. I mean, we're not playing sports to not get hurt. Yeah. Sorry. Did I roll my eyes?
Yes.
A little bit. Sorry.
Yeah. Again, I love baseball. My kids love baseball, but yeah, going bunch of Ks and depending on the right game, you might get a few dingers, but just so many strikeouts where I'm like, the game, just put the ball in play. That's what people like. But I do think it's a separate podcast, and I know you've talked about that.
Yeah, that could be a whole podcast.
For sure. So would that be your one rule for both?
It's more sensitive with kids, but yeah, I'm all for kids smashing other kids as long as it's good, hard slide. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
there's a right way to do it.
I just think, I mean, like for me, sports, like as humans, we want to fight naturally. Like there's that battle mentality. Like it's just like part of us needs that competition and that thing. And it's like, if we keep making sports so safe to the point to where they're sterile, I think we're going to get bored. Like you're already seeing things in baseball where it's like you're having to entertain people at the game. Once that's happening, I'm like, well, what are we doing now? Like, so you're saying the game itself is boring? Like, I think what the Savannah Bananas are doing is pretty incredible. And I like that they say it's not baseball. But I think more about baseball when I think about what they're doing. I'm like, it's cool what they're doing, and they're doing incredible. I don't know how long it's going to last or where it's going.
Sure.
But it's kind of like the fact that needed to exist is what I focus on. I'm like, well, why do we need this? Because baseball can be like a very, very exciting thing. You have to understand what makes it exciting in order to keep those things in the game. You know what I mean? And we keep thinking, oh, it's attention span. It's not that. No, it's not. It's like, I think one of the biggest short-sighted things that I've seen over the last 10 years is the idea that increasing the amount of home runs will increase the drama in the game. And the reality is like nothing in life is exciting when it's not rare.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
scarcity.
When it happens all the time, it's just, then it's the game, you know, stuff like that. And I sound old, but like, I think it's some of that kind of stuff that it's just like, understand what creates drama and make your decisions based on that. You are entertaining fans. Well, what's entertaining?
Yeah.
So it's just like everything else. Go through the I'd love to sit down and go through the strategy with Ian with Major League Baseball, or whoever it may be, about like, let's see what sells tickets. You know, what is it? What makes it entertaining? What makes it fun to watch? Right. I mean, we focus all of our attention on how short the game is. So you're basically telling me that the only way for me to enjoy this is to make it shorter. Well, it sounds like painful to be there if that's the case, you know? Like, I like 4-hour movies, though, as long as they're entertaining.
Whatever. I'm like, my wife just watched, I don't know, 9 hours of whatever,
we
Meghan and
binge,
Harry. Like, how'd that happen?
I know, we binge like 18 hours of a show now.
Right. I lied. I have one minor last question. One of my idols growing up from playing baseball, I remember sitting down with my dad, and I looked for it. I can't find it. I saved way too many years. My wife's pissed about it. 15, 20 years worth of Sports Illustrated that came in. I started reading when I was real little. I'd read with my dad. The one that I had was with Will Clark, and he's right on the cover, and he's looking like staring holes right through your core.
Yeah.
I know you interviewed him for the podcast. Maybe what was one kind of leadership thing, or what's the most memorable thing that you took away from that time?
The most memorable part was the part before doing it where I wondered, why the hell did I do this? Because
you mentioned that in the intro. You're like,
yeah.
I don't even know if I want to do this.
No, I mean, I regret it. I saw him, it was 6 a.m. at spring training, and that's the only time he could do it. And he's walking down the hallway, and he sits down, and he spits, and he's like, what are we doing? And I was just like, oh God, what did I get myself into? But like, it took about 10 minutes, you know, a podcast to do, but like within 10 minutes,
he warmed up.
He kind of realized that I wasn't just asking about his career and how great he was. And I was asking kind of about the intricacies about what made him tick and like what made him such a warrior, you know, and just a competitor. And then he got really into it, you know, and it was really cool. But like, I mean, with him, it's just like his mentality towards not getting beat is like unmatched, you know, and like really inspiring. And it's just natural. Like, it can't be taught. Like, that's just how he was.
Yeah.
And like his competitive spirit and his confidence in himself. Like, if you could bottle that up, man, like, I don't know. I don't know where he got it, but like, he had it, man. Just unreal. You know, some of the things, if you just go on YouTube and you just look up Will Clark versus Roger Clemens, Will Clark versus Mitch Williams.
So I was a Cubs fan. That was awesome. A transformational.
Like, I can't watch that without getting chills, you know? It's just like, you're not going to beat me. I mean, it's like, it's pretty sick, man. Like, that's what Warstic is about without saying it. You know what I mean? Like, you just could feel that. That's why I like baseball. Like, those moments are why I like baseball, pure and simple.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, let's, you know, to make the game more interesting, it's like, it's those moments. In that epic battle with he didn't hit a homer. He hit a line drive up the middle.
Shot up the middle, yeah.
I'm glad that's all he needed.
Right.
And that's kill shot, right? That's why my podcast is called Kill Shot. It's like, what matters, like that's it, you know? But like, I ain't doing it again. No, I'm not interviewing him again. I did it once.
Why don't we end on that? Let people know, give a quick plug to the Kill Shot podcast. And then also, I don't know if you have an ask of the audience, or where can people learn more about Warstic, One Fast Buffalo, anything as we wrap up here?
Pretty simple, like Kill Shot podcast. I think you Google it and it's on Apple and all those things. Yep. I only do the Kill Shot opportunistically when I feel like there's someone to interview that comes up. So I don't try to do it like once a month. I just, however many come out. And I do think I'm going to do more of them this year though. And then onefastbuffalo.com and warstic.com, no K, WARSTIC.com.
All right.
Yeah, man. And One Fast Buffalo is still alive. It's just, it's more the side gig now, but like we probably do 2 to 3 jobs a year. It's just that now we can be pretty dang picky about, it's all about, that looks like a fun way to not spend time with Warstic and worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that'd be cool to create. Let's do that. So 2 to 3
circle.
jobs a year. Yeah.
Full circle. Now the thing that will start as a side gig to get out of
definitely the side gig.
Reversed.
But we're probably, ironically, probably better at it than ever because it's just, you know, the experience of doing your own brand. I have a lot more sympathy for what clients go through now, ironically, and how hard what they do is, you know, so.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Ben Jenkins, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right then, friends, how did that go? Hopefully you enjoyed my conversation with Mr. Ben Jenkins of Warstic nearly as much I enjoyed interviewing him and being part of his really unique space. If you ever are in Dallas, make a point, check it out, go down to the Warstic headquarters, buy some gear. I have one of the only pennants in my office that is not one that I designed is the one on gratitude, which is having an attitude of gratitude, which is always a good reminder for me and my kids and everybody else. So this episode was brought to you by the Simple Sales Pipeline. If you have a sales rep or a business development manager and you cannot state an individual number that represents their future sales, You can solve that in 30 minutes or less very easily. Organize and value your current accounts and your prospects with a little bit of probability mixed in for the uncertainty that's in the market. You can do that at thesimplesalespipeline.com. Again, we want to make this the best podcast you listen to. So if you have ideas for future guests or new topics or ways that I can do my job better, do not hesitate to email me directly at bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com. There's 2 N's in Hartman. bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com. And if you did get value from this video and this podcast, yes, there's both. If you are listening to this episode in audio only, you're missing out on the video portion, especially the really cool video that we took from being down at Warstic HQ. So go to YouTube, Bradley Hartman and Co. We're recording a lot of these. We're trying to slice and dice them into smaller pieces to make it easier for you to share these insights and engage with the content to hopefully make you a better leader. If you did get value from this, please rate and review. Those mean more to us than you know. Thank you for watching. We're going to close out like we always do. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great one.